Hi, YouTube. So, I'm working on my cabinet. Haven't brought up my pipes yet. I do have a chunk of them in there, probably 40 or 50 of them, but I haven't gotten to my pipes yet. Let's open one of my Dunhills. This is one of my amber roots. I have probably 4 of them that are almost all alike. Some of them have a longer shank than the others. This one has the gold band. Some of them have a wide silver band. A lot of them are shorter, because not all of them. I don't know, I call that kind of a Canadian, but everybody has a different name for them. Have a nice little, like I say, I just love the grain and the color. I love those light color pipes. There's just something about them. And in it, I'm smoking some Diamond Joe. It was from one of our B&Bs here. No, brick and mortars, B&Ms. I'm going through some stuff. I don't know if you can see. I'm in the middle of a mess. The problem is I have boxes of those messes all over the place because as we moved, I would just take a room of them and then I have a whole bunch of tobacco that I'm sure is really all dry. Just bits and pieces. What do you do with it? Well, there's several things I've done with it. Sometimes you rehydrate them if they're worth rehydrating. Most of these are really getting, no flavor left, so why rehydrate? Or why smoke them other than sometimes I'll mix them with another blend just for the heck of it, if I'm being thrifty. If someone wants them, let me know, because they're all dried out and have no flavor, and I'm just going to basically, I guess you'd call it, destroy them. What I take is I take my cardboard egg cartons, and I put some other stuff in there, some kind of little wood shaving things and stuff like that. Then I'll throw some tobacco in there. And then I don't know if you guys have any of those wax warmers, but after a while the wax warmer has the wax in it that loses its taste and flavor. So I just kind of pop them out of there, and I keep them in a little pile, and when I get a bunch of tobacco like this, I'll make up those egg carton things and throw the wax right on top of that tobacco and straw. Not a lot, just a little to hold it in there. And then when I'm out at the fire or in the fireplace, I throw one of those in. It kind of helps if you go ahead and dampen your egg carton on top. Just the top piece, because it will slow that down enough that it actually, you get the smell of the tobacco in the steam more than you do the smoke. But it's something to do with it, Oh, I'm way off track. Today I was going to tell you more growing up stories because everybody thought that was fun the last time. There's so many stories because I'm old. So, if I sit there, you have the sun in your eyes. Okay, so I'll talk about, problem is this is hard to talk and hold the camera and my and the pipe, because this is my living room. Boom. And we'll sit in here. It is a little darker in here. Hope you can see me okay. I sit over here. I'm talking about nothing again. Here we go. On and on, droning on, Sue. All right, so when we were kids, we grew up around tobacco fields all the time. We'd go see Grandma and Grandpa. Aunts and uncles and stuff. My mom's family had lots of tobacco farms, so we got to grow up around the tobacco farms. Not even to mention the fact that here in Kansas and Missouri, they're everywhere. But anyway, so as kids, we would dress up in the tobacco leaves. And I don't know if you guys, well, who would? When they're growing tobacco and they're beginning to cut down those plants, especially in the farms where we were at that had specialized tobaccos and stuff, they would cut the bottom leaves off that had all the sand and all the dirt and stuff on them, and they would lay them on pallets. And then as those plants were beginning to do it, they would cut them off at the stem. So always on those pallets to begin with was the bottom bigger leaves and stuff. But it was really kind of like, it was just what was on there to keep the other tobacco from getting dirty and stuff. And there again, because you guys don't know, because you didn't grow up around it, there is a smell to tobacco as it's drying in the fields, because they cut it and they let that sun dry it for quite a while. There's this ammonia smell that gets released. It's especially we would notice it when we would go in the back of tobacco warehouse doors where they had thrown out tobacco that was wasted or molded or no good. You know, you would always get that ammonia smell from that tobacco. And, you know, I know everybody has different things that they say about McClellan's and how it had that ketchupy taste, some of them said, and things like that, or smell. To me, that was almost that same smell. I'll take my glasses off. It was almost that same smell that you would get from the drying tobacco and stuff. So to me, I didn't mind the smell because, you know, I just figured it was, can't see the camera, I just figured it was like, you know, normal. But I did hear other people talk about, oh, I'll focus again. Okay, so they would have these great big leaves. Now, they're not great big leaves, but they're pretty good sized leaves. So as little girls, me and my sisters and some of the other kids, you know, we would go out to the tobacco fields and we would take those great big leaves and we would tie them. Now, in every farm, there's always a lot of twine and string and stuff laying around. So we didn't ever have trouble finding something to tie it with. And a lot of times they'd have the stringing that they were going to be using anyway on the tobacco out there in the fields. So we could always get the string. And we would tie those great big leaves all around us, you know. And usually one person did the tying while the other person was doing the holding, you know, and then that's why it always was in threes, because two need to put the dress, help put the dress on, and one got to put the dress on, and we'd change up. Then after we had our gowns of tobacco, our wonderful green and gold colored, molted colored gowns on, you gotta remember, we're little. We would get the tops of the plants and we would pick the flower part out because that was just what you carried around. And then the rest of it formed kind of a cone. So we would take where we picked the flower off, take the top of that plant, and we would pop it on top of our heads upside down. So it made like a crown for us. And so that's how we played, you know, in the tobacco fields and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Sometime we used to do snake thumping. That doesn't sound right, but it is. We had berry patches too, you know, and the snakes kept all the critters down. They took care of all the pests and stuff like that. So we would get a bunch of snakes every year, and we would let them loose into the berry patches and stuff. This is another type of farming. We did organic farming from day one. We would also get great big burlap sacks of ladybugs, which was really a lot of fun because you could just cover yourself in ladybugs and they would stay on you for a while. You could walk around with a dress of ladybugs. There was the snakes, though, would come into the field. So you'd put them into the fields where the strawberries were, and when it was time to pick the strawberries, all of the little kids that couldn't do the picking would get this stick with this piece of wood on the bottom, and you would do what they call snake thumping. You'd all line up across that field, you know, with the rows going this way, and everybody would take a couple steps, and then they would thump their stick. Then you would go a couple more steps and thump your stick, a couple more. What it is they were getting all the snakes that were in those strawberry patches, which none of the migrant workers, you know, were, they were scared of them. So we would take and do that. And as you go down, you start seeing leaves move, and pretty soon you would actually start seeing the snakes going. Well, because it was continual farming, you know, we would take them from there into the blueberries, kind of, because that was the next field over. And then from there, you would start pushing them into the, do we do blueberries or raspberries and then blackberries? But anyway, so you would be a snake thumper. You didn't actually thump snakes. You played with them. We played with them in the backyard. We had watched Tarzan on TV, and we built a snake pit. Well, back in those days, I mean, even getting to see Tarzan on TV was like amazing because there just wasn't a lot of TV, especially out there in the country. You got like 3 stations for 3 hours a day or something like that. But we saw Tarzan, and he had a snake pit. So us 3 little girls, we were terrors. We went out and we built a snake pit. We dug a hole, and then we went and got a bunch of snakes because we weren't afraid of them. We knew if the ring went around to put it down. you know. And so we never did that. We knew what was bull snakes, black snakes, blue snakes, green snakes. We were very well versed for little kids because you grew up in Arkansas where there was snakes, scorpions, you know, things like that, rocks. Great fishing, though, man. You could go anywhere to any of those streams, and of course we're still talking about in the 50s, you know, early 60s. You could pull fish out of any piece of water in the world back then. Oh, on a different thought, wasn't I? What was we talking about anyway? Oh, the snake pit. So we would get a bunch of snakes and we put them into the snake pit, and they kept getting out. You know, so we would have to grab the snakes and put them back in, and we'd go get more snakes. But we never could keep the snakes in long enough to walk across our board, you know, because that's what happened. Tarzan walked across the tree or something, across the snake pit, and we never got to do it because the snakes wouldn't stay in the pit. Well, my mom got mad because she comes out of the kitchen, and she's sweeping snakes out the door, you know, and she said, you know, build the pit further away from the back door. And that was, that's how my mom was, you know. It's like, fine, they're going to build a snake pit. They know what they're doing. Just don't do it so close to the back door. Isn't that funny, though? Those snakes were even going into the house to get away from us terrible little girls. But then there was, let's see, there's monster proofing. Now, monster proofing started before I can even remember, because my dad smoked cigars, and he traveled a lot, and we couldn't always travel with him. So he would travel, and when he would travel, before he would travel, he would monster-proof us. But he monster-proofed us a lot. And what monster-proofing is, and I think every daddy should do this, and that's why I like little kids. And someone said, why do you send yabos to little kids that you don't know and stuff? It's because their dads are involved in something where their dads are getting yabos, and I want those kids to be as interested as their dad. It's not fair that daddies get yabos and a new hobby and the kids are left out. So I'd like to keep the kids involved in their dad's hobby. So monster proofing. What monster proofing was is just, hold on a second. I don't like to clench. So, monster proofing was just really, when we would go to say goodnight to Mom and Dad, they were usually in the den. And that's when Dad would be sitting there in his little cloud of smoke. So if he was going out of town, we'd all go in the day and the night before he was going to leave, and he would blow billows of smoke. And as girls, we would dance in it. My sister would dance. My little sister, you know, would fly through it, and I would swim through it. But every night, then when we'd go to bed, we'd get monster-proofed, and that would soak into our nightgowns, that tobacco smell. And so at night, if you were scared or lonely or just wanted to think of Dad, all you had to do was just hold your gown closer to you, and you could smell Dad. And Mom used to get kind of irritated because if he was gone for very long, us girls knew to hide our nightgowns because my mom would come to take him and wash them, and we didn't want her to wash the smell of the tobacco out of it. And my dad monster-proofed us for years. My dad even monster-proofed us sometimes when we were in our 30s and 40s. My dad was a lot of fun, but here's the thing about monster-proofing that every dad should know. Yeah, you're exposing them to a little bit of smoke, but never once in over 70 years was I ever attacked by a monster. So monster-proof your kids when they're young. You don't want them to have a monster attack them. And that was always kind of fun, because even in the old days, I mean, my little sister was afraid of the dark, and so we always had a nightlight on. And then she went through a phase, just not for very long, but there was monsters under the bed. So my dad would come in at night, and he'd always bring his pipe with him, and he would blow smoke under her bed to monster-proof her bed. Of course, we were jealous. So he had to come do it for us too, because we started claiming there was monsters under our bed too. But I think it was more just a little bit more of a this is my daddy kind of time. And that was my dad. You know, he was my, he was, and probably, you know, people who knew him will say that my memories of him are much brighter and better than other people's, but I don't know. I don't think so. One of the things, like say, I'll talk about next time is what I learned from my dad as far as loading a pipe, how to light it, what to do in order to be his co-pilot. Happy, happy, joy, joy. You know I'm watching you.